The role of the Rebbe to make a כינוס תורה in the text of Chalamoyed, as I said, le'nitnu yomim tovim leYisrael lilmod b'im Torah. We have the honor today to have in German that not only Chalamoyed, a ganzen Jahr sister learned על התורה ועל אבידו, הרב החסיד, הרב שלום דובער, ליפקיפקר, a senior in the OK השגחה, בבקשה.
Wait, everyone. Senior in that text. Yes,
English, if you can.
Yiddish, yeah?
English besser.
English?
Yeah.
First page of Maseches Sotah. Gemara says that Shlokish brings down. Shlokish says that Em Yizavgin La'odom Elo Lefim Isha Elo Lefim Maisov. And the Gemara says, the Shlokish concludes that V'koshel Yizavgin K'kriyas Yamsuf. She explains why is it so difficult, because Mishana said, okay. Why doesn't the Gemara say it's so difficult as creating the world? If it's that difficult, what the Kebrias Shomayim V'oretz? Why does it have to be Kriyas Yamsuf? And B'chad, Tzachon Gechab Dafke Kriyas Yamsuf. What's wrong with Adon Nisim? I don't know. Shemesh Begiven Day. For example, interesting Nekuda that the Maharal in the beginning of Gvuras Hashem Take in his 3 Akdomes goes on about explaining this whole idea of Shem Begiven Dom. It's a big deal of a Nes. Shidud Maruchas HaTeva goes on about explaining. So why Tzachon Gechabt Davke this Nes? Should have said, and it's a Nes. What's Davke Kriyas Yamsuf? Shai. Kaponim Zod Gemara weiter. Fertig Gemara. Lechure, we learned that Mem Yem Kodim Mitziras Avlad, Bas Kol Yetzes, and says, Bas Pleini LePleini. Which means, Lechure, it's not about Maisov. The Pashtus, that's what the Gemara says. It's not about Maisov. It's already settled before. And for the Gemara, Hovaziv Krishna, Hovaziv Kshem. But Lechure, it sounds like the question of the Gemara is that it's not a Psam Maise that he's doing. It's something already that it was done before. It's something that should have been done before. And that already, the Gemara said before already as well. The Gemara said already before, it Shidud Maruchas HaTeva. Shinui said it Breishis, which means that before he should have married someone else. Then why did the Gemara have to bring down this Breishis? The Breishis didn't say any Chiddush, because if the vote of Shlokish already said that. He was meant to marry someone else. Then why bring this Gemara as well? Why bring this Breishis? Koponim, it's a close kash, obviously, but means that there's an interesting Gemara in Gittin in Seif Perek Vav. There's a machlekes between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi. I mile mimseron leshliach. Gemara says there's a machlekes. The machlekes is about if one can tell a shliach, go and tell someone else to write a get and give the get. To write and chasma, the give and get is different, we'll see soon. And the halacha is, Takazevi Rabbi Yossi, that mila loy mimserin l'shliach, according to Rabbi Meir, yem mila mimserin l'shliach. And there is another sheet, Shmuel says, that depends, imerim or not, but la'aloch b'pei mamash most rishenim, pasking clearly like Rabbi Yossi, the mili loy mimserin l'shliach. Baal cannot tell people, go tell the sefer to write the get, and go tell someone else, 2 other pe'edim to chasma, because mile levim seren l'shliach, and Rabbi Yossi eine meide be'imerimus. That's maskone, most rishenim paskin like this, some chlekes rishenim, but it's anders. Fragen die rishenim, the Ramban fragt, the Ritva fragt, what, according to Rabbi Yossi, shliach and is a shliach? A shliach dafke has to make a shliach in front of another shliach. The mishalech has to make. First of all, there's a whole sugi in Perigimel that says that shliach that was nenas, he cannot make another shlichus. He can go to Beis and Beis he will say before nichto before nechtam, and Beis will make a shlichus. Then bichlal, it sounds from the Rishonim, it sounds like sadover poshut that it doesn't have to be before of the mishalech. It's interesting because the Gemara says clearly, milim miserin nishleach, but side the Ramban, side the Ritva says, I mean, why do you need a mishalech to make a shliach? Why take milim miserin shliach? And there's a machlekes between the Ramban and the Ritva on this topic. The Ramban says that there is a difference between taking something, taking the get, from one place to another, which is what the situation in Perek Gimel Take. And over here, because over here we're talking about the actual writing and making of the get. And the Torah says, "V'nosan lo lishma." There has to be this function of lishma. And if this function of lishma is missing, then it's not a proper get. Zog the Ramban, well, yeah, you can make shluchim to take one thing to take the get from one place to another, but to actually give the kavanah, the lishma, that he cannot do. That he cannot do. And that's why the writing and the chasning, that has to be with a specific order of the Baal. The Ritva does not accept the censor. He says, because Ebazei, if that's the reason why, according to Rabbi Yossi, it's not kosher, should have said that. Because it has to be lishma. Instead, the Gemara says the reason why is because according to Rabbi Yossi, then just say that. It's like Ha'ikar Chosim and Ha'sefer Zog the Ritva. That's not what the Gemara is saying. The Ritva Zog the Ritva, the problem over here was not that it has to be lishma. No, that's not as important. Because it's just like taking the get from one place to another. By giving the get also has to be v'nosan beyoda. No, but then, he says, the reason why is because when he says imru, when he tells them, tell someone, what he's basically telling the shluchim, his shluchim, is that you go and you take care of it. When it comes to a get, everything has to be done by the Baal. And therefore, when the Baal, if the Baal tells the Zaydim, go tell them that I'm emani them, then it's takifine even according to Rabbi Yossi. Which means that it sounds like according to the Ritva, this function of Lishmo is not an integral part of the get, rather it's more of a tna. That in order for the get to be kosher, it has to be Lishmo. The Torah says, you want to write a get, but don't forget, it has to be lishma. And therefore, it's not a part of making the shliach, it's just another t'nai in the making, it's not as important. According to Ramban, however, no, to make the get, it has to be lishma, that's part of making a get. And therefore, that, unfortunately, the husband cannot give over because that's someone else. Only the husband has the power to do this. About Shlichus, there's a famous Sikha of the Rebbe. Everybody know it, I'm sure. The Rebbe quotes the famous Lekach Tev, that in Shlichus there are three levels of Shlichus. I think the Lekach Tev actually mentions two, and the third one is almost b'dachagav. The Rebbe points out that there's basically three madregas in Shlichus. The lowest one is just a teitzah, meaning if you send a shliach and he does something for you, so nothing of the actual shlichus belongs to you, just a conclusion. The conclusion, you could say, it's named after him, after the Mishalech. The second level of shlichus is that the actual maise itself is by the shliach belongs to the Mishalech, meaning when the Mishalech actually does the action, it is as if the Mishalech himself doing it. Because the power to do it was given to him by the Mishalech. And the highest madrege, which is difficult to come by, is that not only that the koyach ha'maise was given to the shliach by the Mishalech, but the whole metzias of the shliach is the Mishalech's metzias. And I remember in yeshiva we were discussing this. It's like, and how do you exactly decide when do you exactly become this level of shliach? What defines and what exactly makes the situation happen correctly? You say that the shliach here has to be this way. So why would the shliach become this level of shlichus? What exactly defines it? And I remember someone was saying, it kind of makes sense. The vote is that when the shliach is requested by the mishalech to go ahead and do something, and the way it explains a lot, and he's going ahead and he's doing it. What does he exactly do? He's mevatel his rotzen to the mishalech. The shliach over here is functioning as the yoda arichter, like the long arm of the mishalech. His will is bottled to the mishalech for this particular action. So the question is, however much the mishalech needs him to be, that's what he will become. So depending on the situation. By a get, for example, there has to be avenosan beyoda. So the action of the giving, that's what the shliach was agreed to be a shliach. And b'dachagav, there's a Gemara in the beginning of Perek Vov in Gittin that kind of supports it. So the interesting thing over here is what you could say that the machlekes between the Ramban and the Ritva over here is more. It's a one step ahead. According to the Ramban, and be'emes even the Ritva would agree with that. The reason why a shliach over here, and why according to Rabbi Yossi, when it comes to writing a get, forget, that's what the Gemara is saying. The question of the Ritva according to the Ramban doesn't even begin. Because this is the definition of Mila Lemim Seren Shliach. He cannot do it unless he is the Mishliach himself. That's why Mila Lemim Seren Shliach. Because to be such a level of shliach, to be bottled to the Mishliach to an extent that even his kavanah pnimis is going into the action, that unfortunately is Mila Lemim Seren Shliach. According to the Ritva, however, it's not as important to the get, and that's why it doesn't have to be such a big bitl, and that's why this cannot be Mila Lemim Seren Shliach, and therefore he has to come up with a different answer. Back to the Gemara insight. Now this obviously is a little more of a drush. All the memorim in Pesach and Achashon Pesach that discuss this whole idea of Kriyas Yamsuf. What is the vote of Kriyas Yamsuf? Daber b'nei Yisrael v'Yisrael. And it explains that the pivotal reason why Kriyas Yamsuf happened is because there was a V'Yisrael. The Yidden went to Mesiras Nefesh, they went into the Yam. And there were Yidden over there that were in the situation of Takis HaKonas Nefashis before there was Kriyas Yamsuf. The reason why Kriyas Yamsuf happened was because there was a V'Yisrael. And the way the Rabbi Rashab and the Rabbeim explained this whole idea of Kriyas Yamsuf, this whole idea of as a neshama kum tarop lamato, the neshama avid comes down the guf, l'slavish beguf, and it comes down to Elam Mazeh, and it's doing what it has to do for 70, 80 to 120 years. This whole idea, this whole aveda, the kind of yira lamato, is be'en areich lower to what the neshama was capable before it came down. And the Alter Rebbe therefore is asking every single week almost, lo mayod neshama ze lamato. Mehaltinin doing Aveda, Yira, whatever that is, I could have done it much better over there. So why is the Neshama coming down over here? If the answer is, the will of the Rebishter, the true will of the Rebishter is that there will be a Neshama. This Neshama will come down to Ilamazah Gashmi, Beguf Gashmi, and over here, says the Rabbeim explained, and it's explained Baruch and Samach Vav, that the Rebishter is Megale, not Chitzenius. Am Shochef on Eir Yosher, or the Afilu Makif. We're talking about Atmos Mahus Mamash is coming down to over here to Elam Mazeh. And the Yeshleimah, the Chadrush, maybe that's what the Gemara is asking. The other meaning was, the Rish Lakish says, that depending on however much it was Yisarus Deletat, is Aveda in the Elam Mazeh Agash, the Gilui of Atmos Mahus, that's what he's going to get. Just like he's mamshich all the mitzvah, just like he's doing all this aveda, that's what he's going to get. And that's why kosher is having Kriyas Yamsuf, because the Kriyas Yamsuf was also this idea of Mesiras Nefesh. The neshama goes down to Elam Mazeh Gashmi and he's doing what he has to do. The Gemara, how could you say that? Meaning way before the neshama came down to Elam Mazeh. Way down, there was no guf. Maybe I'm great with Tziras Avlad. Bas Kaliyaitis Veimeres, Bas Plain in a plane. Which means it has nothing to do with the Aveda. It's something that is Siddur Bereshis. The Siddur Bereshis was Naifun von Eliyosha, the way Elam Chesed Libone was that Bas Plain in a plane. And for the Gemara, Ho Bezivuk Rishon, Ho Bezivuk Shein. Before when the neshama came down to Elam Mazeh, Taki was a Yosha, everything was fine. The Milo there is no sheker. It was goes down emes, and by emes that's how it should be. And now Taki the Gemara says in Sefer Seres Gittin Taki as Kolon Garsh Ishtar Rishon Afilu Mizbeach Meir Dol V'Dmoes. It's a big deal, yeah, because this is how it should be. This is Siddur Bereshis. This is how it should have been. However, when it comes to Zivuk Sheni, already in the Neshama Beguf, over here, the Siddur Bereshis is already gone. That's it. There's no Siddur Bereshis for him. No, but then if he wants to fix this, the only way you can do it, based on his own Aveda. It's already a Aveda, that's already an integral part of himself. to do the Aveda of Kriyas Yamsuf every single day, with Mamshel Kriyas Yamsuf every single day, und Taka Zeichel zu dem Mashiach Tzidkeinu, B'Koriv Mamash.
השקעה של אמבר, the המשך וכינוס תרב will take place tomorrow. I want to use this opportunity if anybody has places to go for the Talucha, if you know some shuls, you have some connections, please come by. Or if somebody wants to go to Talucha, more than welcome. Zayin, Zoicha Zayin, Zayin Shan, Veshom Necha, V'nazvoch, 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 V'nazvoch,